Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Are you trying to conceive after loss, or maybe thinking about trying to conceive after loss? I know this journey can feel so incredibly heavy, lonely, and overwhelming at times. The hopes, the fears, the grief. It can really feel like no one truly understands what you are actually carrying. And that's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a nurturing, flourishing community for women navigating this tender season. Here, you are not just joining a group. You are stepping into a space where your feelings are held, your experiences are understood, and your journey is honored. You'll connect with other lost moms who truly get it, learn practical tools to help you through those really hard days, and gain guidance from me and other guest speakers on the topics you're really wanting to learn. Each month, we come together for a learning workshop where we dive into topics like grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and nurturing your mind, body, and soul. It's a place to feel supported, to grow, and to prepare for the journey ahead without judgment, without pressure, and without long-term commitment. For only $22 a month, you can join when you need it most. If you're ready to feel seen, held, and understood, come join us. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/motherlikenoother. I hope to see you inside. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to share this week's episode with you. This one is really special. And honestly, it's been one that so many of you have been asking for since the very beginning. I know so many of you have wanted to hear from this guest. So the day has come and I finally got to sit down with her. So today on the Rainbow Connection podcast, we are joined by Emily Green, who many of you know as Emily the Medium. Emily is a psychic medium who has spent more than a decade helping families connect with the energy of their children, their spirit babies, through all parts of the journey, whether that's while they're struggling to conceive, healing after loss, or learning to raise their sensitive little ones here earthside. Emily helps parents understand that the bond with our babies exists far, far beyond the physical. But in today's episode, Emily also does something that she hasn't really done too publicly before, and she gives us a mirror into her own story of loss. She opens up about the signs that surrounded her pregnancy, the connection she felt with her daughter, and the heartbreak that came when she learned her baby could not stay. She also talks about what it means to navigate grief, both as a mother and a medium, and how her daughter continues to show up for her in the most meaningful ways. We dive deep into the intrinsicies of soul connection, how our babies speak to us, how we can open ourselves up to their presence, and how love truly never disappears, even when our arms might be empty. This conversation is obviously very spiritual and very full of light. It's one of those episodes that reminds you that our babies are never really gone. They're always here with us in ways that words can't really quite capture. Anyways, enough from me. Now let's hear from Emily. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined by a lovely guest, one that I've been really looking forward to connecting with and having a conversation with. So I'm feeling really thrilled to bring on Emily Green today, who most of you might know better as Emily the Medium. Emily, welcome to the Rainbow Connection.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so looking forward to chatting with you and having a conversation with you and your beautiful audience. Thank you for having me.
Honestly, there has been such a huge, sometimes I like poll my audience and I'm like, who do you guys want to hear from? And everyone always says like, I want to listen to Emily. And I'm like, yes, we need to have her on. So today is a bit of a mixed bag of the things that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we are going to talk about Emily's amazing work and kind of dig into that world because I would really love to just learn so much more. I think this will be an amazing opportunity to learn from Emily. But we're also going to dive in to her story and her walk to motherhood and her most recent miscarriage. We're going to talk about it all. But before we dive into that, Emily, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners who maybe don't know you yet?
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. You set me up so well. I have been in practice in a healing field for over a decade and been supporting individuals in all kinds of different walks of life and journeys and points of their path and so on. And a long time ago now, it feels like yesterday in some ways, but I have shared a lot about this one woman who changed my whole path, basically. And she was just an average day. It started the way that days always begin, and I had clients, and I was excited to work with them. And long story short, basically, it ended up that her daughter, who she lost in a pregnancy loss, came through. And at the start, I didn't know that was even possible. I was still like kind of a baby with my spiritual gifts, and I didn't know that was possible. I truly didn't. And she changed everything, because from that moment, it was like I learned what a spirit baby was. I didn't have that language in my vocabulary before, which in my understanding now, that really is just the spirits, the souls, the energies of our children, past, present, and future. And from that point forward, it was very clear that this was the direction that my practice was supposed to go. And this is where I was supposed to. This was not a random moment. Like, this woman and her daughter were sent to me very specifically. And I kind of just dove in. And not only did I dive in, but all of these spirit babies started finding me in the most unexpected ways. People I was talking to who had had pregnancy losses over 40 years ago and who are still holding pain and grief around that, and their spirit babies would find them. And it was just incredible. And so from there, that has just been my devotion and my love, and my heart is supporting women and parents and families wherever they're at on their journey to children, or the entire spectrum, because it's so wide. And it's not always the people that you expect that you're working with. It's like the woman, again, like I said, that was such a special moment of like getting to work with somebody who had a pregnancy loss over 40 years ago, but had never had the space to fully heal from it and understand it. And to have that soul who is connected to those actually two pregnancies come in and provide this beautiful woman with healing and hope and support and just everything. It was incredible. And so that's kind of how it all started, and it's really just evolved and grown. And I wrote a book and have a podcast all about it, and all about spirit babies and their magical ways. And but that's how it began, was with this one beautiful woman and her daughter in spirit.
I love that. And I am definitely no stranger to, a singular moment kind of changing your whole trajectory of your work and your life. And what you provide is, I can only imagine how needed and well receptive and healing it is. And even for that woman that, that you had this life trajectory moment with, I just think about 40 years ago and how it was like a different culture and generation, and we often didn't talk about our losses. And I can only imagine like the healing that must have brought her. And it's really just an amazing special gift that you have. And I definitely want to dig in at some point of like, when did you know you had a gift and what did that look like. One really special thing about this episode is we are talking in September, but it is going to air in October, which is obviously Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And I know that this podcast is going to be just like the work that you do. This podcast episode is going to be so well received because there's just going to be so many, grieving hearts that are just hanging on to hope and hanging on to that messaging and want to connect with their spirit baby. So this conversation is just going to be, I think, amazing. Now, obviously you are coming, we did talk about this a little bit before we press record, but this is the first time you're going to be coming on to a platform and sharing a little bit more about your story and not just about your work, but your personal journey to motherhood and how that has shifted and how that has probably really impacted your work as well.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't, follow Emily already on Instagram, Emily has been so open and honest about, the recent miscarriage of her little girl. And, Emily, I think it would be, as much as you're willing to share, we would love to hear more about how that was for you and where you're at now. And just give us a little window maybe into what that experience was like, especially as a spirit baby medium.
Yes.
I'm sure it's very complicated.
Complicated. It's so funny because it's like I can't even, that exact like dichotomy, that concept, it's like I don't even have a word. It's complicated, it's intense, it's beautiful, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's amazing, it's like it's everything, and so thank you for inviting me to share. And I feel like this space that you've created, like I mentioned to you, I just think it's so beautiful, and you're giving people the chance to share their stories and share really how their children have shaped and changed and shifted them from the very core of their being, and how their stories and their impact and their love and loss ultimately are still having this profound ripple effect on them and us and everyone around them today, and every day. So that's why I'm so happy to be here and so happy to be sharing in this very special month. So I don't even know where to start, but
let's start at the beginning.
Yeah,
like what has your, I'm assuming you have a partner.
I do. Yeah.
Yes.
We have been together for almost over a decade, 11 years. And I remember when not long after we met in college, and mutual friends introduced us, and they were like, you guys would be great together. And we were. And we were sitting on the porch of his student dorm. It was night, and we were like looking at the stars, and we had, I don't know, been together for maybe 6 weeks. And I was like, so listen, I was like 21. I was like, listen, being a mom is the most important thing in the world to me. And like, when can we do this, basically? Like,
I need you on board. So.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, I want children. I want babies, and I would love them like now, soon. He's like, what do you mean? We're poor. Like, we have, so it was always like, I had this vision, and I mean, I've had this vision since I was a child, and I have talked to many people who have had this experience where actually like their first inkling or their first awareness of their children was when they were a child themselves. And that was my experience. I mean, I always had these experiences of like dreams of my future daughter. And I mean, she has been around me like from the moment I can actually retain memory. And so she's been woven into my life, like from the very beginning. And it was always like this, for me anyway, I've always felt this like yearning. It's like, when do I finally get to meet you and to have you here in the physical world? And I've had to be very, very patient, like so patient. And I've had to surrender a lot. And, there's been lots of different phases of my path to children, as I'm sure many people can relate to, which is a whole other story. But it's just getting to this year and getting to 2025. my husband and I had been calling in a baby or trying to conceive for almost 3 years, kind of very intentionally. And something shifted in 2025. And I was just like, I don't know, something is happening this year. I just feel it. And it came actually on the heels of like getting some kind of challenging fertility news at the end of last year that honestly really like was unexpected and kind of shook me to my core. And I really had to like reckon with the possibility that, is this ever even going to be possible for me? Is this actually going to be, and then getting that reflection from, which as I know many people do, from my care team who are saying, this is something you should consider, that it may not be possible in this way or in this form. And that's something that's really difficult, I think, for a lot of us who have this like vision and this yearning and this desire and this feeling. And then things just don't seem to be matching in a certain way in the physical world or in the feedback that they're getting. It's a really hard reality to hold of like this yearning and this vision and this desire.
Well, especially since like, for the people who have known they've wanted this literally their entire lives,
my
right?
entire life. Yeah. So anyway, I had to do quite a lot of like reprogramming work and like lots of meditation. And I finally sort of landed at the beginning of 2025 in a better place where I'm like, no, this is possible. I believe it's possible. Everything that I know, everything that I've seen, it applies to me too. That's something that like I've really had to work on in myself and my own personal healing of like, I want so many good things for everybody. And I think other people are so deserving of love and babies and everything and happiness and miracles and all of these things. And I realized that I have a hard time kind of counting myself in for that as well. And so I had to count myself in. I was like, no, Emily, like you want this. You've always wanted this. This has been in your bones from the very beginning. And so find a way. Find the way, find the spiritual way, find the physical way, find a way. And so that's what I did. And I just really kind of like dropped in, and I was meditating every day, multiple times a day, and connecting with my spirit babies, connecting with my daughter. And I was just like, preparing, I think, not just emotionally, but I think also spiritually. And, so that was the first sort of 5-ish months of 2025 for me. It was just like laser focus. And about a month before I conceived my daughter, she started coming to me in dreams and more. She always did throughout my life, but it was like every night. And one night I was kind of falling asleep reading a book. A dragonfly just flew by my window. Dragonflies is one of my signs from her, I swear. It just went like back and forth.
That's William's sign too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, goosebumps. Wow, that was amazing. I haven't seen that yet since living here. So as we're talking about this, that's amazing. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
I lost my train of thought too. Every time I have a sign, I'm like, everything, like the world kind of stops, right?
Yes.
We
It
got to
stops
talk
you in your tracks.
Yeah, we got to talk more about signs.
Yes, absolutely. I remember now. I was falling asleep reading a book with the light on and my glasses on, and kind of opened my eyes in this half sleep, half awake, and through my bedroom door, I saw my daughter in her what I would imagine her adult form looks like. She was like in her early 20s, and she walked into my room, and she like crawled in beside me and like laid across from me, and her hair was kind of like cascading in front of her. And I was just like instinctively like caressing her hair, rubbing her back, and we just like fell asleep together. And it was the most beautiful like vision moment. It was real. I know it was real. I couldn't have created that if I tried. And I just felt her. I was like, oh my gosh, are you coming? Like, is this happening?
Just so visceral, right?
So visceral. And, moving into June, it was just like every breath, it was like, I was like, she feels so close. So, anyway, long story short, I did conceive her in June. And the period before I found out was also just like so magical, like dragonflies everywhere landing on me in my yard. And this one morning I woke up and there was this mom deer and her baby like resting in my yard, and a hummingbird, which I'd never seen in the 6 years that I lived at this place. And like it just so many magical nature signs and symbols. And even my mom, she was seeing a healer a few days before I found out I was pregnant, and the healer said, I don't know why, but I just felt like I am like placing your granddaughter in your daughter's womb. And of course she had like no idea what was happening, and this healer didn't either. And so there was just like so many things that were so magical. It was just such a magical time. Even as I'm talking about it now, I'm just like, oh, it was, those moments where you just feel so close to spirit, to your children, to all of these things. It was so magical. And anyway, so the day I found out I was pregnant was literally the best day of my life. I will never forget it. And even today, it gets to be the best day of my life, or up until now anyway. And I was just so grateful. I was like, you're here, like you made it. And I thought you were coming. I knew you were coming. And actually in the meditation on the first day, she said, I'm here and you have to move into a new house. That was like, she gave me like an instruction. And I'm here now in the new house that she told me to move into. And we got it in such a miraculous way as well. Anyway, moving along, I had like a week of bliss, of just like enjoying the pregnancy and the fact that this baby I'd waited for so long was here, and it was amazing. And then things kind of started to shift, not spiritually necessarily, but I felt in some way that her physical development was struggling. And this is before I had had a scan or anything. And I just felt like I just got this feeling like, oh no, something is not right. And, she, as I was talking to her in my inner kind of dialogue and inner vision, she was saying, I'm still hanging on, like I'm still trying to be here with you, and I really want to, and I don't want to leave, but I might have to. And so that kind of went on, honestly, through my whole pregnancy, where even as we were going in for scans and things, it was like, oh, we don't think this is not looking good. And then the next scan, it was like, never mind, everything looks awesome, amazing, beautiful, strong heartbeat. And then, so it was like there was really this kind of
like push and pull
and this like real uncertainty. I mean, through the whole pregnancy, where I really just had to be like, okay, this is everything I've wanted and it's here. And also, this is not what I thought it would feel like necessarily or look like. And I've just had to be really comfortable with uncertainty. And, there was a lot of like, okay, things don't look great today, but let's have you back in 2 weeks. And I mean, those 2 weeks were just like
hell.
Oh, yeah. Hell, like hell on earth, like barely could function. I could not function, even with all the tools that I have and the support that I have. And it was just like, yeah, I was not able to function. And there were pockets where I was still able to kind of access like, okay, you're pregnant today and she's okay today. And that's all you have. You don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, but that's what you have. And I just tried to like hold on to that as much as I can and do some of the things that I had like always wanted and wished to do. And
well, I think one thing about your perspective that's so beautiful is like, anyone that isn't in the spiritual realm, or it's new to them, I think that they think that their baby is here when their baby is like in their arms. You know what I mean? I remember, when I was pregnant with Vienna, it was very much the same. It was like, you're here, you're in my life, you're my daughter, officially. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, there's this like other push and pull where people, maybe try not to get attached. But I always say, like, motherhood is a runaway train. Like, you're attached no matter what. Your baby is a part of your DNA. There's no denying that you have a living being inside of you. And I just think it's so special that right away you were like, she's here. She's here. This is the time. She's come to earth and we're together. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I enjoyed those moments,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't, because it would have been so easy, like, to just shut down. And I know, and I completely understand why anyone would, because I wanted to. I wanted to be like, okay, I'm checking out.
You almost have to like gaslight yourself. You're like, we are pushing through this. Like, we are going to just like make the most of today, when there's like this other side of you that's like, but right?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm wondering, like, when you say you had like this feeling, you had this inner dialogue, going on with her, did any part of you think that it was a possibility that she wasn't coming to like Earth side this time, or that any part of that dialogue you were having was anxiety?
Great
Like, how
question.
can you tell the difference, right?
It's a great question. And I think it was interesting. It was certainly like there was interesting dynamics within this that I had to navigate, because it was my first time being pregnant. And so there was a lot that was new to me, and I had developed my, spiritual connection over a long period of time, but not necessarily in a situation that I was in the middle of that I was incredibly attached to. So there was new layers to it for me, where I was navigating, like you say, where is this, what am I dialoguing with him, and checking in. And luckily I have worked my discernment to a fairly high level where I was able to really kind of tell, okay, no, that's like your fear, that's that you're talking to right now. And then this is, and for me anyway, like in the way I experience spirit, and when I'm talking to energy, whether it's a soul or whoever, it's like a voice. Like, there is a clear voice. It is like there's a tone, there's a sound. It is clearly a voice that is not my thought voice. It sounds different than the way that I think. And so that's also easier to discern as well, where it's like, oh, and there's also this feeling as well. One of the things, and I support people in like developing their intuition and all of these things. And so I know the things that come up for a lot of people. And one of the things that people say is like, once they experience it, is I know what it feels like to make something, like to conjure something up and like make a story or create a dialogue. And I know what that feels, because it has a feeling. And then there's also another feeling of like a true spiritual experience, a true spiritual dialogue. There's a certain sensation to it. There's a certain feeling to it. And I'm sure anyone who's experienced that to any degree in whatever fashion probably knows what I'm talking about, where it's like, oh, there's a different quality to it. It's almost like, look, like seeing a movie play out in a specific way, and you just get a feeling as you're watching it. But I mean, there was definitely parts of me that I got a kind of an inkling at a certain point, like, she's not going to be able to stay. And there were still parts of me that were bargaining.
Of course.
There's a monarch butterfly now flying outside my window.
Stop.
Oh my gosh, I swear. There were parts of me that were bargaining too. I was like bargaining with God, and I was saying like,
Like, what do I got to do?
Yeah, like if you let me keep her, I'll do anything. Like whatever you want me
Yeah.
to do. I'll write another book. I'll
Yeah.
travel the world. I'll do whatever you want. Like, what do you want me to do? How I can help more people. I'll help millions of people. But just let me keep her, please. You know, which I think is a really natural like
Well, yeah,
stage.
you're her mother.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you obviously would do anything to
yeah. Anything,
have her stay, right? Yeah.
anything. And so we found out one of the things that I wanted to still kind of have the experience of was finding out if this was my daughter, which I thought that it was. I felt that it was, and getting to confirm that yes, it was her was a magical moment. And then the next day we found out that she had passed. And so that was an interesting, like, holding both of those two moments so close to each other was really hard. I mean, it was,
Yeah. Well,
it was,
how have you made kind of sense of that? I mean, as like an earthly mother, human being, but also as, you know, this deeper spiritual being as well.
it didn't make sense right away.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't.
You know, I was like, I needed a few days to just be like sad and to not have to figure it out. Like, and I think in that space, what that was is I guess you could say I just surrendered to everything. I surrendered to the sadness and like the devastation and the why, and everything was like magical, and there was so much magic, and like, why, you know? I let myself just kind of be there and go there. And when I was ready, which took a few days, maybe even more than a few days, when I was ready, it was like she was more than ready to give me the entire explanation of like why.
So interesting.
You know, and I think that's all one of the things, that's the biggest question. And I know from my work of like, that's what we all want to know is why.
Of course.
You know, like, why were you here and why did you have to leave? And what happened? Is there anything I could have done? And
Like,
everything.
what is the purpose of all this? Like, why?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it, right?
Are you coming back? Like,
yes, all of it. Exactly. And something that I'll just add is like this, in my experience, not just in my own experience, but in my experience working with people who are looking to find those answers as well, is I think, again, we can't necessarily expect when we are like in the immediate kind of aftershock of grief to be able to receive that. It's incredibly difficult. And we're not necessarily, you know, I think there is something to be said about like actually allowing yourself to be there without looking for the why right away. You know, it's not, that is of course natural, but I just want to normalize for people who are like, I'm still here and I still don't have the answers and I still don't have the clarity and I still don't see the point in this, and that's okay. You know, that is completely okay. And I do want to also just say that when you are ready, whether that is 2 weeks, 3 months, 40 years, right? This one woman I referenced at the beginning, she waited 40 years to understand the why.
Well, some of us don't even want
and some
to
of
know
us
the why.
some of us don't want to. Yeah, completely. But if and when you are ready, they are there. Like, they will find a way to deliver that comfort and love. And I promise you that it is like the most pure, unadulterated, innocent, beautiful love from these beautiful souls and their spirits and their hearts, that they want to offer us, because they don't want us to be in pain. They don't want us to suffer. They don't want us to wonder why they aren't here, why, if we did something wrong, if we said something wrong, or if they abandoned us, or if we abandoned them, or whatever the case may be. You know, they in my experience, after many years and thousands of people that I've worked with, they want to hold our hearts, and they want to like hold us, and they want to help us understand, again, like you said, if that's something that we want or if that's something we're interested in. So I just want to say, that was what I was able, thankfully, to have. And also it didn't make it easier. It was still like, this sucks. And I can hold that.
Like,
and
I
also
do not consent. Like,
yeah, like, cool. Glad you, glad you had what you wanted. I didn't necessarily yet, so I think it's like, for me, this has been something that I've just had to become really comfortable with my whole life, is like, yes, sure, I have worked really hard to develop my intuition and my spiritual awareness to the level that I have over a long period of time. And also that doesn't negate the very human experience and the human emotions and the human grief. And it's like one of those things where I just really had to learn, and I'm still learning. I don't think I've necessarily mastered it yet. But I've just had to learn how to like hold both, how to tend to both. And some days it's like the very human kind of part that just needs support and needs to like, find a new therapist who gets it and who can like, I can actually dialogue with this person. And some days it's like I'm in meditation, sitting in front of my altar, just talking to this baby and talking to my daughter, and having that kind of thing. So I think I just had to learn how to hold both. That's been a big part of it.
well, I'm sure some of the answers you get, you don't really want to get too, right? That level of discernment and like having that connection. I'm sure there's a lot of times where you're like, okay, I would rather maybe not know this. And even just in terms of like you still needing to have a very human experience, I think you could have all the tools in the world. You can have like, you can have all the answers. It doesn't make it any less hard, especially when it's a mother and their baby, right? Some of it just like, I loved that you said like it needs to be felt, especially at the beginning. Like we need to feel it. And like you can't really get answers until like that part is kind of, come to fruition. And sometimes that takes us longer.
Yeah. And on the other side of this, I've found a lot of peace in telling her story, and she said, I want you to tell this story. And that wasn't necessarily like my first, my first inclination necessarily, but she was like, tell the story and you can help more people with this. And so that's what I did, and that's what I'll continue to do for the rest of my life. Like, this is one of those things that I'm sure and I'm sure your listeners know, that no matter what happens in the future, like the fabric of my being is fundamentally different. I am cellularly different. I will never be the same. You will never be the same. Your life has it's different. I don't even relate to myself the same way. I'm like looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, you look different. You're talking different. Like, you are different, so
totally. This isn't something you can like put on the shelf and just like kind of let it collect dust and like forget about it. It really is something that changes, just like, how your trajectory got changed with that conversation. This changes things too. There's like I always think of it as like two phases of life, and it's like pre-loss and post-loss, right? Or pre-motherhood and post-motherhood.
Absolutely. And so in that space, I think I'm just kind of like finding, and people ask me, how are you doing? And I think I said this to you. I'm like, I'm finding more light a little bit every day. There's more light today than there was yesterday.
And there might be less light tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's like kind of a little bit of a cha-cha, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back some days. But
yeah, exactly. And something else that has brought me peace is, just like sharing her story, but also I've really loved, like, I see her birthday everywhere. I see the date of her birthday everywhere, and I loved looking up her life path number of her birthday and learning about that. And she's a 22 life path, which if you know anything about that, it's like master number.
Sienna's a 22 as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, that's so powerful. That is so powerful. I don't even have the words for that. That's incredible. But I think just like finding these things that I would have done anyway, like I want to look that up. And what was her life path number? And that's brought me a lot of peace. And, I'm sure you can relate, and many of your listeners can relate to this too, but it's like I see her she's everywhere, in the dragonfly and the butterfly, and in like the stranger who smiles at me at the store, and in the beautiful moment that I have with somebody who like doesn't know that I'm having a hard day, but they're being kind to me anyway. Like she's just everywhere.
Those like glimmers, right?
Yes.
I think someone said glimmers to me once, and I was like, oh, I love that. Like look for the glimmers.
Yeah.
And it might not be like your physical baby, but they could come in like those small little synchronicities and signs, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now has she, and you don't have to share this, but I'm going to ask it. Did she send you any like big messages when you had that question of why?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that she said, and I had a foundation for this already, but again, it's also different when it's in your experience, but I had a foundation for this already, that sometimes these beautiful souls, everything lines up, and, conception happens, and they start growing, and their heartbeat forms, and then something happens that sometimes can't be prevented, and there's like elements of this that are just we can't control, and even the most divine, spiritual, powerful forces can't control. And she just said my body wasn't strong enough for my spirit, and I tried to make it work, and it couldn't. And I understood that because I've seen that before. It was still hard,
Yeah, of course.
And then of course it's like the parts of you that are like, well, could I have done anything different? And is that my fault? And, all of that, which I knew weren't the case, but still,
you have to ask it, right?
Yeah. And so that was her answer. And, she said that she's going to find another body and find her way back here as soon as she can. And so that was nice. That's not always the case. Sometimes some souls come to touch our lives for brief periods of time, and some come back, and that's always different for each person and each soul. And the thing I'll say is that something that has brought me a lot of peace in my own experience, but is a teaching that spirit babies talk to me a lot about, is that every soul is on their own journey, right? I had my journey here to be Emily. I was born in December. I chose that. That's when I wanted to come into this world. And the parents that I had and the life that I had, and you came into your body and have your life and all these things. And that was your experience and your soul journey. And something that they say is like, every soul is on a journey, and the journey is not always the same. It's not the same as it would be for me or you or somebody else's child or somebody else's spirit baby. And sometimes those journeys and those paths look confusing. Like, why would you have to take this way and this detour and that detour? And why would you have to go and then leave and then come back again? And, for us, I think sometimes it's like, doesn't make sense. What is this? This is so challenging for both your earthly parents and for you. And, they just always say like, it's my journey. and, and it's not always pretty, and it's not always easy. But there's something that I had to do, or something I'm looking to experience, or something that I needed to try, and it didn't work, but that's okay. So that's something that I think, as a very big picture sort of teaching, is something that has brought me a lot of peace of like, okay, that was your journey. And I wish it was different. And I wish it didn't end that way. But can I find the part of my heart that wants to respect my daughter's journey, even if it didn't end up the way I would have hoped or wished for or wanted? And I think it's a really powerful lesson in that as well, of like, for any parent, who is raising a child here, where it's like, oh, okay, you're doing it that way. All right. That's not the way I would have done it, maybe, but that's you, and that's your individual path. And I'm going to do my best to support you on it. And, that's always what I'm asking. And I think what many parents and many people, I mean, the first question that every person I've ever talked to has said to me is, when they're talking about their spirit babies, is, what do they need? Is there anything I can do to support them better? That's what every parent wants to know. How can I support my babies? That's the first question. Literally every person I've ever talked to, over 1,000 people all over the world, that's what everyone wants to know. And I think that is just so beautiful. That's like every person with living children and children in spirit, is they just want to know, how can I support them? And I think that with that mindset and with that vision, it's like you are literally co-creating a life with your children. You're saying, how can I support you? And they're also saying, how can I support you? Is there anything that you need? They're always saying that. They're always saying, I want my mom to know, that I knew she was having a hard day, and so I sent that friend over to give her like a big hug on that day, or like, little things like this, right? Like, they're always looking for ways to support us. But also, I think naturally there is this question and this intention and this desire that so many of us have to support our children in whatever way we can, in whatever form they are in,
It's funny that you bring that up, because I had this like epiphany last week. And it's not like a new epiphany. I think it's just one that like I've kind of, with time, it's gotten dimmer or quieter, just because hustle bustle of life. But I know as a lost mom, I often get lost in the feeling of like, oh my God, I miss my baby so much. Like, what can I do for my baby? How do I connect with my baby? And like, it's all like me to them. And I think like in the last week, when, now that I do have my earth daughter, I think it's so hard to conceptualize when your child is not on earth. But my daughter looked at me last week, and I remember looking in her eyes, and like, I think now I understand like that love so much better. And I can see that love and like kind of grasp that love so much better. And I was like, holy crap. That's how like Vienna and William think about me. Like, it's always been about like me missing them, me mourning them, me wishing they were here, me wanting to love them. And I'm like, oh, that's how they feel about me. And I was like, wow. While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered space that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other pal mothers. A place where you can truly be real, be held, and be reminded that you are never alone in this. Our fall cohort begins this September, and enrollment is now open. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/the-haven. Inside the Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. Okay, like I haven't been looking for that lately. I haven't been looking for the ways that they're showing up because I've just been so stuck in like my side of things. And that brings me to like, my next question is like, how can we open that, portal more with our spirit babies? Because I know so many of us are like, I talk about this all the time with my clients. It's like, they'll say like, I'm not getting signs. I'm not getting signs. Like, and I know that when I am, from my personal experience, when I am feeling like that portal is kind of closed or it's that one-sidedness, I'm stuck in that one-sidedness, I get a lot less signs.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I feel like I'm more connected to or open to that portal, that's when it starts coming through. And I would love for you to like explain that as best as you can, or just like tell us how we can better keep that portal open or be able to, connect with our babies.
Well, I think what you're describing is love, what you're describing is love, and love is a multidimensional thing, and it exists beyond time and space. And, someone right after I had my loss, she said, she's a lost mom as well. And she said, you're a cosmic mom, and I was like, yeah, wow. What a trip to have this like cosmic, multidimensional, non-physical relationship with this being, this soul who, I've never actually like held, but
here.
Yeah, but I have in so many other ways. And, I think it's all love and it's all heart. And like we talked about earlier, I think in human experiences of loss and grief, naturally we have this, like, the heart wants to close, it wants to protect itself, it wants to guard. That's just a natural mechanism, it's a natural reaction. I would say it's like a biologically natural reaction, and that can sometimes make it harder for us to access that kind of cosmic heart, this multidimensional love, this very, circular love, I would call it. It's a circular love. It's not only do you have this incredible desire and passion and love and beauty and all of these things for your children in spirit, and also that is circular. They have that in exact same admiration and love and all of these things for you. And I want to contextualize this actually in a story, because I think it will answer your question very well. I was working with a woman who had to terminate her pregnancy at 17 weeks for medical reasons, and was looking to understand the soul and his journey as a boy. And, he came in and I could barely speak because I was crying so hard because the love that he had for his mom and everything that she had done for him, and how she had moved through like the greatest heartbreak of her life for him, and how grateful he was, and how much he wanted her to know that he would love her for every minute of the rest of her life. And if he didn't get the chance to come back in with her, that he would be like her main cheerleader and guide and teacher, and, 5 steps ahead to like, be cheering her on every part of the way. I mean, it was just like, I truly could barely talk because it was so overwhelming. And that's not an isolated experience. I'm using this story because I think it's so beautiful, but that's every soul, that's what they want to give us every day. And that's what's available to us every day. And I think it's always going to come in different forms, signs and communication with our spirit babies is so, it's truly an art form. I say it's an art form. Because in a sense, like, you have to, when you're looking at a piece of art, there's people who go into art galleries and are like, what's this all about? I don't really get it. Like, it's just like pictures with color on them. But then there's people who go into art galleries and they sit and they witness the art and they can see things in it that people who are just rushing maybe can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something in that where it's like, if we can sit and witness and receive, because I think that's the thing with science too, like it takes a certain amount of receptivity. And coming back to what we said earlier of like, if we maybe are having a day where it's like, we just can't receive that for whatever reason, maybe it's a hard day, or we're busy, or we're in our heads, or our grief is really heavy. That's not always like receptive mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's treating these like I love how you said it as like a portal, because it kind of is, it's and a portal also that never goes away. It truly never, we can have the experience that it's like opening or closing, or it's big or small, or there's lots coming through it or not very much coming through it. But that's all, I think, a matter of perception and what we're able to kind of actually receive on any given day. And so my suggestion and my invitation for people who are looking to open that portal more, or maybe have a more consistent access to that connection and that communication, because I think maybe that's what we're all looking for, is like, I just want to feel their love all the time. I don't want them to feel my love all the time. And just like have this beautiful, again, circular connection and relationship, is looking for all of the ways, like, and I mentioned this earlier, where I see her everywhere, and for me, that looks like, maybe people would call this delusional. I choose to just call it magical, where it's like, oh, I met this person today and they said words, like they said something to me that it's like, oh, that's her speaking through this person. That's what I choose to believe. That's how I choose to engage with the world. Like I felt that felt true to me. And so that's what I'm kind of claiming from that experience, And I think, we also forget that we can ask them for help as much as we want. Like that could be 100 times a day. I need you. I miss you. I feel really lonely. I want you here. I just want to hold you. I feel so hopeless today. Please, show me a sign of your presence. And from that, like that space, it's a space of like, I'm open, right? And I'm open to the way I know you're going to show up. And maybe you're not going to show up till later today. I had an experience when I found out that I would be losing this pregnancy, and I asked for a very specific sign. I said, send me a butterfly and send me the first initial of your name, like in the same context. And this was early in the morning, and I waited all day. And I was like, oh, I don't see it. It's not here. So maybe it's just not coming, and I just kind of surrendered. I was like, okay, but she'll bring it. I know she will. She'll find a way. Whether it's today or tomorrow or next week, I know she'll find a way. And I went out for a walk that evening, and I was like drawn just to this to look out over this kind of hillside that looked out over onto a body of water. And I looked down at my feet, and I actually have it, so I'll grab it so you can see it. I looked down at my feet, and there's this little piece of laminated paper, and it says, there's a number 2 at the top, and there's a butterfly and the letter M, which is the first letter of her name. And at the bottom, it says Radiant Girl. And it was just like, wow, that was such a cool way. Not only did you get the butterfly, but you got the letter. I'll show it to you so you can see it. Even the two.
Wow, so random. I love that.
So it was one of those things where I kind of I was like, I really want this, because I really, actually, I don't just want it, I need it. It's like oxygen to me right now to be receiving this sign from you, and it didn't come in the way that I expected or thought that it would, but it found its way. And I think there is this, like, when we're looking for this communication, I think something that I found is that they're always looking to put these in front of us. And sometimes they actually have to try a few times before we actually receive it too. Is the other funny thing that they'll tell me a lot, where it's like, tell her that I did already send her 2 butterflies but you just didn't catch them. And so that's the other thing too. It's easy to miss. Sometimes these things are easy to miss. Maybe we don't look up at the right time, or we're distracted by something.
Our
And
phone.
our phone. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And so they're always looking for ways to have this communication. And I think it's like learning the art form. This is something I say too, is like, you are able to learn your child or children's spiritual language. Like, how do they speak? What are they like? Are they cheeky? Are they kind of like sending butterflies at funny times, or maybe sending a message through someone where makes you laugh later when you're in private, or maybe they're a little softer, and maybe they communicate through sunsets. Maybe they communicate through, when you're in your dreams. And that's sort of something that's interesting, is like discovering your relationship with your child in this form. What is that like? What are you learning about them? How are they coming forward? So it's something that I think it can sometimes take time, and that's very natural and that's very normal. I have lots of different meditations that you can kind of like, if you're looking to connect more, I'm happy to share one with your community as well, so that they can try it, just to kind of feel like, what does this connection feel like, and how can I invite more of it in?
Yeah, I would love that. I'll speak for myself in this aspect, and my experience is, I've always thought of myself as like an empathic, like more spiritual, connected being. I've always had like this very strong intuition. Like my mom always tells these stories about like me being a little kid and her throwing out like one of my hundreds of crafts, and me just being like, my mother threw out a craft, and like me knowing she threw out a craft and knowing where to look and like finding it. There's always like weird things like that when I was a kid. And now that I have my spirit babies on the other side. I don't even know how many I have over there, but I know I have at least 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think like when it comes to specifically about William and Vienna, like I definitely feel their spirit the strongest. And sometimes I get stuck in, I think that they're like this, and I think her personality's like this, and I think she's trying to tell me this. And sometimes I'm like, am I telling myself a story, or is this actual truth? Like, I think I have a hard time with that discernment.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on how to like get clear on that discernment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, the thing that came to mind when you were talking is a Harry Potter quote, which is kind of funny, but, Dumbledore says to Harry, just because it's happening in your head, why on earth would that mean it isn't real? I think that we have this ability to gaslight ourselves in second guessing our experiences that are intuitive. And because, there's always that questioning part of the mind that's like, is this just a story? Is this just something that I'm projecting or that I'm creating in order to...
Am I crazy?
Right.
That
right.
too, right?
Yeah. And, what I'll say again is that it's so challenging to... Like, think about if you had to make up a story off the top of your head without any context or reference point, or like, I'm telling you, make up a story that is completely fake and sell it. Like, sell it to me. Like, it's the most real thing. That's so challenging.
I would not be able to do it. I'd be sitting here for like 4 hours being like, I still got nothing. Like,
right.
Let me ask ChatGPT.
It's so hard. It's so challenging. And so it's like, if you are having an experience where you're like, you all of a sudden get this feeling or this download or this brainwave of like, I think that's what they're like, or I see them like this, or this is what I feel they're trying to tell me with this sign. And it just comes as this knowing. I mentioned earlier, like, one of my other greatest passions is, for a long time, I thought when I was a child and I was having all these spiritual experiences, like, that's a big part of my story is, I would know things before they happened, and I would pull thoughts out of people's heads, and I thought I was crazy, and so did everybody else. And so I shut it down because I didn't know how to like understand my like what was happening and all these things. So that's a big part of my story, and it's a big part of like what I teach, because there's so many people out there who have like these experiences, just like you said in childhood, where you're like, oh, I knew things that I couldn't have known. And I found things, I try hiding like Christmas presents from me. It was impossible. I would find them always. But we have these experiences as children and throughout our lives. And as we get older and we move more and more into this world, the world kind of wants to beat our magic out of us.
Totally. That's what I always thought too. I'm
Yeah.
like, people would be like, how are you so connected to your babies? Like, I wish I was that connected. And then I have like my brothers who are like very stuck in their masculine, being like, Kristen, like, that's great that you feel that way, but you're kind of nuts. And I'm like, no, like this, like I do feel like I have such a strong connection.
Yeah.
And I only ever start doubting it when someone else is like, huh?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's just where I got goosebumps when you said that, because I think that's where, like, I think it's so beautiful that you're saying that, because your connection with your children does not have to make sense to anybody else but you. Like, truly, it can be, you don't have to be private about it. You can share about it, but for other people, they may not have the same feeling or sensation or even belief in the things that you're picking up on. And I think that's where it's like, something that has been so amazing for me is talking to other lost moms and people in this community. I mean, I have just been like surrounded by what an amazing, like, these people are just incredible, and you included, and just everybody who has been so loving and kind and compassionate, who understands and who is like, yes, I had that same connection, or yes, I had the same dream or the same vision or the same, all of these things. So I think it's like we find this, and that's why we're here, right? And that's why we're here in this month, is like, we need each other, and we need to have spaces where we can share about our children and their energies and their personalities and how we're communicating with them on a particular day, and what they told you in the dream that you had of them last night, and the cool sign that you got from them last week, and all these things. We need that so bad. And I think that's like what is kind of, in my opinion, it's what's being reclaimed now, is like this of women coming together and sharing their stories, and not being afraid to like be their kind of magical selves and share these magical connections that they're having. And I think the rest of the world will catch up maybe eventually, but if they don't, it doesn't matter, because what you have with your children, what you feel, even if it's just been like a subtle experience through your whole life, like, that matters. That's real. That is a real relationship. I always say that this is a relationship. Like, this is, you are bonded forever and ever, and how is that relationship continuing? How is that communication continuing? And so I think it's like, I think I've had to get very comfortable with just like, well, if people think I'm crazy, then that's okay. I really don't. It's one of those things that I kind of had built tolerance for over my life. It wasn't always that easy. And I definitely like, cried about people thinking I was weird a lot.
Well, I definitely will say, and I speak for all of us, that none of us think you're crazy. I think all of us think that you are like such a gift. And it's so true. Until you've experienced loss, until you have been a mother that has like lost their child, it's just something that you're never going to understand. And that's okay if people don't understand, right? Because it is such like an individual relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, for our listeners tuning in right now, obviously, like, October brings up a lot of emotions, right? There's a lot of people listening that are desperate to connect with their baby, and we've already gone over so many like helpful little nuggets. But like, what practical or spiritual tools like can we use to support our healing in that process? Like, what's something that we can do today, like, as like when we hang up this call or stop listening to this recording, I mean.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think there is something very powerful in like, spirit babies can communicate in a variety of different ways, but they have favorite ways and they have easy ways, right? So we talked about signs. You can choose a specific sign. Maybe it's a dragonfly or a butterfly, or maybe it's seeing their name somewhere, or hearing a song that you relate to them. And, you can set that up and you can write it down and say, this is what I will ask for when I really need you, or when I really need to feel your presence, or I really need to feel your love, or I really want you to feel my love, and set that sign up. I call it a primary sign. It's like your thing. What's your thing that nobody else has to know about? It can just be yours. And every time you see it, it's yours. And maybe you let people in on that. Maybe it's just for you. And that's one of my favorite ways to start inviting that connection. And once you start seeing them, I mean, as you know, it's just like the dragonfly flying by. It's so magical. And I mean, it's just like, wow, did that really just happen? You know? And it starts to create this kind of energy where you're excited for the next time that happens. And you look for it you look for it wherever you are. And then that's dialogue, that's circular communication, right? So that's one of my favorite ways. I think another really beautiful way is to just like I call it a spirit baby walk. And I put my headphones in and I find a path where there's not a lot of people and I just talk to them. I just like talk out loud, you know, and I say the things that I've been thinking and the things I've been feeling, and I invite them to share as well. If that comes through, then great. If not, then I just talk, you know, and you can dedicate it. I think that there's so much power in can like building connection with your spirit babies, like these practical tools with intention. Like you can take an everyday activity like going for a walk and turn it into something that is just for you, where you're having a chance to honor your baby and talk to them and love them and, you know, all of these things. So that's another way that I recommend. I mean, they also love to come into our dreams. So you can, as you're falling asleep, you can invite them into a dream of yours. Know that it can sometimes take some time for them to show up there, because actually for a spirit energy to show up in a dream, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of their energy. They have to like work really hard at crafting the dream. And so if they ever show up in your dreams, know how special it is. They worked really hard to get that dream to you.
You just gave me like the biggest download right now.
Tell me.
Something I forgot. I remember after we lost Vienna, because I've been a huge dreamer my whole life. Like I have a tattoo on my back that means to dream.
I love it.
And I've always been a dreamer, figuratively and like literally. And I remember after I lost her, I was like, she's not showing up in my dreams. Like she has shown up in my dreams my entire life, just like you with yours. And then she died. And I was like, is this it? Like, was this the end? And like now our like ties have been cut and she's not going to come back anymore. And I remember being on Instagram being like, guys, I'm like having a really hard time. Like I am not dreaming about her. And that is like really sad to me. And someone messaged me, and it could have even have been you. Those were like really blurry times for me. But they were like, your baby's not going to come through until like it takes a lot of effort. And sometimes they haven't like crossed over because they're not ready yet. They're still in this like in between. I don't know how it works. And then I remember I had a dream, and I remember it being like bittersweet, because I remember it being like, oh, does that mean you've crossed over? Ow. I'm like so happy to see you in my dreams again and know that like this portal between us isn't closed. But like, oh, why'd you cross over? You just gave me the biggest download, because I totally forgot.
Wow.
I've totally forgot about that.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I know what you mean, that those dreams can sometimes be, I mean, it's like, they're called visitation dreams. And it's essentially when the spirit or the soul of someone that we love and miss shows up in our dreams. And they do have that bittersweet quality where it's like, oh my God, there you are. And wait, I don't want to wake up. I want to stay here with you. It's
That's
like,
the hardest
this
part.
is the best. I don't want to ever leave this space, you know, because and I've talked to so many people who have those experiences where it was like, I was with my baby in my dreams last night, and I woke up and I started crying because I didn't want to be like, I wanted to be back there with them. I didn't want that dream to end, you know, and that's so real. And in those moments, like what you're experiencing in those visitation dreams is like, that is a direct soul to soul connection that you're having with them. Like your souls are literally spending time together in this other kind of frequency or in this other realm. And that's why it's so bittersweet, because when we come back, it's like, oh, wait, I'm here alone and you're there. But the thing is that they are, I know it's such a cliche, but they're truly always with you in the same way that you experience them in your dreams. Like that's how they actually are. And maybe we're able to let more of them in and feel more of that. But dreams is an amazing way to just say, please come see me tonight, work it out, or come see me like whenever you can.
I'll give you candy, whatever.
Yeah. Please come see me tonight. Exactly.
I always think of that movie, Interstellar.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
Where he's like communicating through the books,
Yep.
and I was like,
Yep.
like the first time I watched it, I was half paying attention, and then everyone was like, "Oh my God, you gotta watch it!" And then I watched it with like my grief-colored lost mom glasses, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yes,
really like that movie.
100%. And I actually I love movies like that because they kind of demonstrate from this perspective, like what it can be like to try
Like
and get
literal.
this. Literally,
Yeah.
like what it can be like to try and get this communication through to somebody, and like everything that goes into that, and then what they're getting, from what you're trying to do. So it's yeah, I would say those are some great ways. I mean, also like specific meditations, or even just like finding your own meditation practice. Again, I know it's kind of a cliche, and sometimes the last thing that we want to do is like lay down and meditate, because that just feels too hard. But if you're in a space where you're like, I feel like I could try a meditation. I have a meditation for a spirit baby connection, which is really nice. And I've had a lot of people who say, I can't meditate. I never have experiences when I'm meditating. I don't get anything. Nothing happens. As they try these meditations, they're like, wow, I just had a meeting with my spirit baby. That was amazing. So, and I think the reason what I incorporate into my meditations too is like, we have to be with the body and the heart first before we can start to experience these higher things. And so it's like tending to the body, tending to the heart, using the breath, all these things. So that's another way. And I think just like your relationship with your children is, you might have like a specific way. Maybe that for you is you really feel close to them at the beach or in the mountains, or, at in your favorite tree in your yard. And like, that's where you feel really close to them. Or maybe like you're kind of like finding your way. You're finding the way that you feel close to them. And I would suggest, and I would just say in the month of October or any time, to where do you feel closest to them? Where do you feel most peaceful? What is a special like place for you maybe throughout your journey, and go find that place and see what happens. It's like magical. Like, it's similar to the spirit baby walks where you're just kind of going and talking, but there's also these kind of like magical outings where you just go out and you follow the breadcrumbs, where it's like, okay, I'm in my favorite place that I always feel connected to my children, and I'm going to see what happens here. And then maybe you meet somebody who, was exactly the person you need to talk to on that day, or you see a beautiful sign, or even like we were saying, like you watch a movie that you're drawn to, and in that movie there's a message that's perfect for you and what you really needed to hear on that day, or something that you really needed to hear just in general. So I think it's like, I could give a bunch more tools and a bunch more like tips and tricks, but also I really encourage anybody out there who is looking to develop and strengthen and like open this portal more, to follow like their heart and their intuition of like where they are being drawn to do and what they're being drawn to try, or and that's even like for me, like hobbies. I'm like, I haven't gone to a yoga class in years, and all of a sudden I'm like, this is all I want to do. And now again, and so, like, I'm listening to that because I don't see that as a coincidence. I see that as like, I'm being drawn there. There's something for me there. Maybe there's connection there. There's peace there. There's communication there. So I think it's also just like,
maybe it's your baby trying to take care of you. Like, exactly. I think you need this.
Yeah, there you go. Back to yoga you go. And so I think it's like everything is this, and again, coming back to what I said earlier of like, she's everywhere, and your babies are everywhere too. And it's like, go find them. Where they're everywhere. Go find them. Go find all of their little treasures and their little breadcrumbs that they've left for you, because they're everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, my next question was going to be like, do you have any words of hope for our listeners to close things off? But I feel like that is like a really beautiful place.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap things up.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with your community. And I can just like feel something I do on every podcast I've ever been on is like, I really take time beforehand and during to like feel the people that are going to be listening to this and that are in your community now and in the future. And I'm just sending out the biggest rainbow love to each person's heart. And I hope you can feel it, that there is this circular love that is just waiting for you to let into your space and your heart and your awareness. And your children love you more than I can ever even explain. I would probably start crying so hard that I can't talk if I was going to try and express it more than that. But it's very important for you, for everyone to feel that and to know that.
Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of people listening and not watching, but there have been so many moments where I'm like, oh my God. Like there's just been like downloads or like this huge wave of emotion that I don't know where it's coming from. And even when you said like you're thinking about the community that's listening to this, I had some faces like flashing in front of me and I'm like, oh. And I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And
Yeah.
I have no doubt that they're going to listen to this and take so much away, especially this month. I also want to thank you, for giving us a mirror into your experience and your life and your journey to motherhood and this road that you are currently on, because you're part of this club now.
Yeah.
They always say it's the worst club, but with the
Yes.
best members. And
Truly.
it's so
It's
true.
so true. Yeah.
What's next for you, Emily? I'm just curious.
Such a good question. And, it's funny, like over the summer, I have always been like very ambitious and I always have a plan and I always have a vision. And this summer I was like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm going to move into a new house and then maybe I'll shave my head and, move to Bali or something.
I mean, loss makes you do crazy things.
Crazy.
Like, yeah.
Crazy things. The things I've thought about doing that I would never consider. So, but I think that's part of it. And I'm embracing that as well, where it's like, what do I want to do differently? And I think there's definitely another book somewhere inside of me that'll probably get written. Who knows when. And until then, I'm just going to be here and in my beautiful new space that my daughter told me to move to. And I
you
did.
know what? Even when you said, like, usually I'm so calculated and like planned, I'm like, maybe this is her saying like,
yeah,
this isn't a time for that.
100%.
Right.
So I'm just kind of flowing with it and seeing what happens every day and listening and
It's so funny that you said like shave your head and move to Bali, because I'm like, why do all of us think about cutting our hair and moving away? Because I remember when going through my loss, I was like, I'm cutting my hair off and moving to British Columbia. Like that was my first thought. And I'm like, why do we think this? It's so funny. I think we just like need a new identity, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's like hard to be in the same community with the same people, seeing the same things, only now knowing your life is completely altered. So it's like, why don't I just completely alter my life somewhere else?
Everything else, like everything. What else could I change?
Start new. Let's just like start everything over.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
I felt that so big. And I actually did get a haircut a few days after I was like, chop it. Take it away. We didn't get to the shaving my head part, but I've not ruled it out.
Well, you know what? I like your hair. I'm just going to say that. I like your hair.
I'll probably keep it.
Well, thank you again, Emily. I'm really looking forward to sharing this episode. And I speak again on everyone that we're sending you so much love as you navigate, these next steps. And, we'll be eagerly anticipating that next book of yours. So you definitely have a great audience waiting on the other side for that.
Thank you so much for your presence and your beautiful questions and the space that you're holding. It's really special. It really is. So thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.